Where have you guys been?
We're back.
I missed you.
Yeah. Happy 4th of July, everybody. Don't know how many people will turn out today. We've been on vacation for quite a while.
I know. I think we haven't been on for about 4 weeks.
The goat's been busy. But today we're back and we're going to talk about the top 5 mistakes that new investors make in Sub2. And we're going to answer your questions, talk about a few other things. We got a new format, so we're going to talk about that today too. So you guys get your coffee and we'll see you back in 45 seconds. Morning, everybody. Welcome to Goat Talk on this 4th of July. We've been taking a break. Yeah. Everybody needs to be out there working on your financial freedom today before the fire.
Clever.
Yeah. We're going to talk about a couple of things. One, a new format that we've got here today. And we're going to need your involvement in that to make that happen. We want you to share our live stream. And we've got a cool feature that we're going to be using to give away some prizes for that. We want to, of course, grow the audience, but we want to share this information with as many people as possible. You don't have to spend $50,000 to learn how to buy houses. You can just join us on Goat Talk and learn a whole bunch. But what we're going to do, and you guys know I'm not very technical, I'm going to try to share this and show you guys. StreamYard has this really cool feature where you can actually have a drawing. So we're going to be doing that a little later. If you share our live stream, just type hashtag shared in the comments and it'll enter you for that drawing. Now, one thing that's very important for this is you have to, if you're on Facebook, the first thing we're going to ask you is to get over to YouTube and watch us there. YouTube doesn't get in all your business and wants you to have to authenticate. But if you're insistent on staying on Facebook, make sure that you go to this link. I know it's in here somewhere. StreamYard.com/Facebook, and you'll authenticate with Facebook, and we'll be able to see who you are when you comment and enter you in the drawing when you enter hashtag shared. So we're on an honor system here. If you guys say you shared it, we believe you. So just make sure that you comment hashtag shared. We're going to give away some cool stuff. Jodi, you want to tell everybody what we're giving away?
This is what we have here.
Mm-hmm. The cool Sub2 coffee mugs. And I think you've got a notebook, a Sub2 notebook.
Oh, where did I do with it? I don't have it at the desk here.
But anyway, just for sharing, you get a chance to win that. We're going to give away some. We're going to give away one of these every week. So somebody said, "Hey guys, not sure who that is."
Well, I just peeked at it, and that is Ryan Gallagher.
Ryan Gallagher. Ryan, get over there.
We hope you will.
And do that.
Authenticate yourself.
Of course. Yeah.
So we can see your name.
Yeah.
It's a StreamYard thing that doesn't get along with Facebook. That's why they don't like to share. So.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, another thing that we would love for you to do in conjunction with what we're talking about today, which is the top mistakes that new investors make with Sub2. We've got an ebook for you that we'll give you absolutely free, and you can see it there. Just go to sub2deals.com/success-tips, and you can get that absolutely free. So go check that out. And get that, and that may give you some tips and things to help you out with that. So Anyway, let's go ahead and again.
I have a picture of the cups
Oh, you do? Okay.
and the notebooks and the pens,
There you go. So
even though I don't have them with me.
just share our live feed on your Facebook wall or on your social media, and go to the comments and type #shared, and it will enter you into that drawing. And at the end of this thing, we're going to spin the wheel and see who won. And if you won and you're on here, we're going to get your information and we're going to send that out to you. Okay. All right. So what are we talking about today, guys? Gosh, we're talking about the 5 top mistakes that you investors make. And
I make.
And I've made most of these at one time or another, and that's how I know about them. Yeah, but number one, and these aren't in any certain order of how often they happen. They're just the questions that we get most of the time. I've done this, I've done that, what now? And it's usually this mistake. And this certainly isn't an all-inclusive list. There are a ton more mistakes you can make anytime you buy a house.
These are just the biggies.
But these are the top ones for people buying Sub2. And guys, make sure that you, I'm going to say it again, make sure if you share this that you hit shared on there. And Facebook user, I don't know if that's still Ryan. Ryan, you've switched to YouTube. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, make sure you do that, shared. Okay. Number one, not checking title on the property. Okay. It doesn't matter how you buy a house, whether you're buying it for cash, whether you're buying it with financing. Of course, that's not going to be an issue if you're buying it with financing, because the lender is going to require that. But not checking title. Joe Seller calls you up today from your marketing and says, "Hey, come get my house. You've been emailing me. You've been sending me postcards. I want to get rid of it. Come get it." So you run out and get a contract signed. You may check the loan balance, but you forget about the title. Title's important. And we just got a deal under contract recently that's a good example of that. And sometimes it's not even that sellers neglect to tell you something because they're shady. They just don't know. Isn't that right, Joe?
Exactly right.
Yeah. We sat at the kitchen table with a guy a couple of weeks ago that had solar panels on his house. And I had never actually bought a house with solar panels. I've talked to a bunch of people that had them, and it always made the deal not very, I don't know, attractive.
Because it eats up all the equity.
Right. And this guy assured me, I said, "Now listen, they've probably filed a UCC lien on your house for these solar panels." And he said, "Oh no, they assured me that there would not be a lien recorded against my house." And of course, a quick search of the county records shows that there is a lien filed against the house. And Jodi did some research in this, I know, and there are a couple of different types, and you get some conflicting information on whether or not a solar panel lien or UCC filing is a lien against the property. But the bottom line on this thing is, if you buy it, you're stuck with it. And you're not going to be able to sell it to anyone else with conventional financing without that being paid for. Isn't that what you found out?
Yes.
So
I think I'm finding that they more and more are doing it, putting that lien right on the house.
Right.
Well, it's better for them, so.
And it's funny because we happened to be at an asset protection workshop the weekend this really blew up, and we asked the person running it, will this present a problem? And this is just an example of how there can be some confusion about it. He said a UCC lien should not be a lien against the property. It should be movable. But turns out
it can be.
It can be, but in a lot of cases it's not. So
all they have to do is check a box that says attach this to the property too, and then they're secure, 10 times more secure. So,
right.
Why wouldn't they if they know about it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you always want to check title. And over the 25 years I've been doing this, you'd be surprised at the number of times that you find a seller that forgot about a second mortgage or something along those lines. Actually, one of the houses that we bought, one of the foreclosures we bought just a couple of months ago, the lady told us, she said, I think there's a second mortgage on it. I'm not sure of the balance. And we got that all worked out. But just an example of people that just don't know. And a lot of times there's been a credit card judgment that gets, tagged against the house or something like that. It's come up very recently. We bought a house in March that before we actually got to closing with it, a $9,000 Discover credit card lien had been recorded against the property. That was between the time we contracted it and the time we closed and filed our deed. Now, I didn't kill the deal. I mean, I was disappointed. That's $9,000.
That chops $9,000 out of our profit.
Yeah. But I mean, we'll deal with that down the road, depending on how long our buyers take to refinance.
Right, it might just fall off.
Right. It might fall off. She might have to pay it off because it's still with her too. And she's right now in the process of trying to clean up her credit. So she may take care of that. And if she doesn't, then we can always negotiate.
So we just let it float until we have to.
Juan says, sorry for coming in late. What on average is the size of the UCC liens you've seen? Well, the one we were just talking about was $45,000.
I think for solar panels, I've seen a few others, and I think that's about what they are. I think solar panels, what cost $50,000 roughly. I think that's the ballpark for when they put them in.
Right.
That other house we looked at too had one that was close to 50.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
they've owned them a long time, and they, if they're selling shortly after getting them, they're up to 50.
Yeah. So, guessing that since it is a lien against the property, and these people are extremely combative. I know this gentleman we were dealing with a couple of weeks ago. He was to say the least upset because he thought he had sold his house, and of course we thought he had too. And
we were all upset.
we could have still bought the house, but it was just it was just a little too much. And and that's what I explained to him. The real problem was that we had agreed to pay him $20,000 on top of taking over his loan balance, which was $203,000. So we were buying a $270,000 house for $223,000 and adding $45,000 to that. And he was still insistent on getting his 20. And I'm like, well, let me make sure you're following this. We've agreed to pay $223,000 for this house. Now we have to add an additional $45,000 to that. There's just no way that's going to work for us. So he really didn't quite get that, I don't think. But we weren't able to work it out. Let's see. Ryan asked a question. Was that the guy that was taking the panels with him? Yes, it was. And they went absolutely nuts on him when he even, and the way they get you with this thing is they told him, if you take those panels off that house, it will void the warranty. So now you've got something that you've invested, $50,000, $60,000 in that is supposed to have a 25-year warranty. It's financed for 25 years. It's warranted the whole time. And now it will have zero warranty for the rest of the time that you're paying for. So that's how they really grab
and
you.
it still has to be paid off if you want to sell your house.
Right. So that lien's not going to go away even if he takes it with him. So that's a big problem. And these guys, they come in, these hustlers, they come in, and what they do is they sell you the solar panels, they install them, and then they go to a factoring company or they sell the note that they've created to a collection agency, basically. And these guys are vicious. I mean, you wouldn't believe the stuff that they told this fella. And I tried to give him some coaching on what to ask them to try to encourage them to work with him. I said, well, ask them, well, what's going to happen if I can't pay for these? And instead of answering the question, the lady he was talking to said, well, it sounds like you're trying to threaten me. And he said, well, I'm not trying to threaten you at all. All I'm trying to find out is, what we were trying to figure out a way to get these panels gone because he really doesn't want them. And they're keeping him from selling his house. So she never did answer his question. She was a very collection agency response. So, it's tough. Anyway. Okay. So always check the title because you don't know what's on it. And just in the houses we bought here in just the last couple of months, there have been surprises. There have been that Discover lien.
The one on Jackson Circle too. There was that lawsuit.
Right. We had
And
a
that was kind
lawsuit.
of at the last minute too.
Yeah, a last minute lawsuit that had to be taken care of. And then also with the other one in Bella Vista, where they had state tax liens where they hadn't paid. The husband was self-employed and he hadn't paid taxes, so those had
Right.
to be
Well,
taken.
we knew about those right away, but
Right.
but
Well, they told us. Well, no, they didn't tell us. We had checked that online ourselves.
oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But
The point is,
the lawsuit though was another one that came in between.
right.
We had it under contract, and after we had it under contract, the lawsuit showed up.
Yeah. And our attorney called us and said, "Hey, we got a problem with the title here."
Yeah,
So,
he says this was going to be a dead deal.
right. So,
and you did your magic.
Yeah, that's right. I just called him and said, "What do we have to do?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I didn't think this thing would close, but all we did was call them and have a conversation with them." So, yeah. Okay, so I think we have a question. I'm not sure who the Facebook user. Are you still doing your own title search for these kinds of deals?
It's Ruben. I'm on my Facebook page too. So.
Farouk, if you're on Facebook,
Ruben.
I'm sorry, Ruben. If you're on Facebook, make sure you authenticate. Go to StreamYard.com/Facebook. Don't forget to share the stream and enter to win at the end of the broadcast. Are we doing our own title searches? We'll do a preliminary title search on the county records. And 90% of the time, they'll show you everything that's out there.
I'm sorry, before you can't share from Facebook. You can only share from YouTube, just so you know.
Oh, is that right?
Well, Facebook's a closed group.
Oh, okay. Well, you have to share it from YouTube then, don't you?
You'll have to go to YouTube and share from there. Just okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's all right. That's important information. Okay. So we actually use a title company to do that for us. We've hired a title company that's an investor-friendly title company. And that's one of the things we're going to get to next. Going into that is number 2 is not having an investor-friendly title company or attorney on your team. I can't tell you the difference this makes in being able to get stuff done, and not just Sub2 stuff, but if you want to flip things, just not even going back 25 years, we didn't have as much trouble 20 years ago getting stuff done, but today it's a lot different. And for example, we called a title company here when we first got here and we were looking for someone. We called a title company and actually we were doing some flips at the time, and they told us you cannot sell a house within 90 days of purchasing it for more than 50% markup on what you bought it for. So that means that, let's just give an example, a house that you bought for $40,000, you could only sell for $60,000, no more, within 90 days.
Even if it was worth $300,000.
Right. And a good example of that's the one that we bought here.
That wasn't worth $300,000, but yeah.
That we bought for $40,000, and we just did a double close at another title company, and we sold it for $150,000 the same day. Now that would have never happened at the uninvestor friendly title company. So that's
they would have knocked $90,000 off of our profit.
Yeah, and just told us we couldn't do it. And if we didn't know better, what would we say? Oh well, at least we're making $20,000.
I know.
So you want to call around and you want to ask some questions. It depends on what you're doing. If you, maybe today you're only flipping, but you want to add Sub2 down the road. So if you develop a relationship with a title company that'll let you do double closes, they're okay with that. They don't have a problem with wholesalers. That's fine. But when you try to add Sub2 to the mix and they go, oh no, we can't touch anything like this. We're going to have to call the lender, or we can't even do one that's a VA or an FHA because that may impact our ability to close those loans for legitimate people down the road. So it's important when you go in, you ask all of those questions and cover that stuff and know who you're dealing with. Juan said, don't state tax liens expire in some cases. It does, Juan, but you have to consider what your plans are with that house and how soon that's going to happen. If I'm buying a house that I intend to flip, for example, It's got to be paid right away.
If you're keeping it as a rental, you might be okay.
Right. And I'm not saying you can't buy a house with an enormous tax lien on it, knowing, say, federal tax lien, knowing that I can probably write a letter and get that taken off and things like that. But you need to know about those things, okay? And that's the purpose of the title search.
Yeah, they're not deal killers, but
Right.
you've got to handle them.
Right. At least you know. So if my intent is to sell a house with seller financing, now we know that most of our buyers refinance in 3 or 4 years, but let's say that you say, well, I've got the state tax lien, it's got 2 more years on it, I'll probably be okay. And let's just say this tax lien is $50,000. You think you'll be okay, but occasionally a buyer will surprise you and call you up 6 months in and go, hey, I've been approved for financing. Okay, now guess what happens? You've got to take care of that tax lien. So you can buy a house with an enormous tax lien. Same thing with child support. Now, child support lien is not going to go anywhere. And
No.
I would say your chances of negotiating that are very slim. Do you have experience with those, Jodi?
No, just what I know about child support. It supersedes most everything.
Right. That's not going anywhere. That's going to be a big problem for you. So you want to make sure you know about those and it's something the deal can afford before you decide to do it, for sure. But really, like I said, liens, judgments, we're not afraid of those things, but you need to know.
Well, in fact, sometimes they're a benefit because other people are afraid of them, and
right.
And
you can use that as a negotiating tool with your seller. Let's say that your seller has a house worth $300 and they owe $250, but they have a $50,000 IRS lien or a credit card judgment or something like that. Well, I mean, you can use those to show the seller on its face, this house has no equity and I can't give you any money. Now, in your back pocket, you may have knowledge that you can get that thing removed. And it's what you know that gets you paid in that case. If that seller went to sell that house on MLS or anywhere else, he wouldn't get any money because, there wouldn't be anything there after the liens were paid. And that's something else we've heard here too. We had what we thought was an investor-friendly title company tell us, we can't close this without paying this stuff. And I said, oh yeah, you can. You just don't pay it. So that was a little bit of a problem.
Well, I mean, most people wouldn't want to take on those liens, but if we're factoring them into our numbers and we are okay with it, why can't we?
That's right. So it's just for knowledge purposes. Okay. You can make a decision to buy the house anyway, but you do need to know. And just because someone's giving you a deed doesn't mean you don't need to do your due diligence. Of course, you're going to check the loan balance with the bank, the interest rate, the term of the loan, but you also need to know the condition of title on that thing. So don't forget that. That's real important. And that leads right into, we've covered the title. We've covered an investor-friendly title company. Next, trusting your seller. Now, I think most sellers try to be honest with you. Occasionally you'll run into somebody that won't tell you about something and hope that you won't find out. But in most cases, they try to be honest with you. And I'm telling you, when Joe Seller calls me and asks me, I'm ready to get rid of this house, can you come out today? And we had that happen. In fact, we're going to talk about a deal like that later. I listen to everything he tells me, and I believe every word he says sitting at the kitchen table. It's my job to complete my due diligence after the fact. Okay. But if it sounds like a great deal, man, I am writing it up. You know what I mean? Don't you agree, Joe?
Mm-hmm.
You write it up and you check it out during your due diligence period. Now, and I'll give you a really good example of why that's important. And we see investors do this time and time again. They think they have a good deal. They get on social media. They talk about it. Well, I met with a seller today that's got a 2.5% interest rate loan, and he just wants to get out, and I'm not sure what I should do. Yeah, in fact, when I first met Jodi, we did this to her in our coaching group. She came on talking about this deal. You remember that, don't you?
Yes.
And there were two of us in there that said, listen, if you're not going to go out there and get it under contract right now, we want the address. We're going to call the seller.
I'm like, I'll do it. I'll do it. Okay.
Right. And it was her first Sub2. So, and this is where we're talking about these things today. If I'm talking to Joe and I'm sitting there and it all looks really good, I'm going to write that contract up, because remember, the contract is subject to verification of all of these facts. So if the seller told me he owed $250 and it turns out he owes $350, then we got to talk again, right? Yeah, that's going to change some things.
I did buy it, by the way. I did buy it and make $24,000.
That's right. She did. And she did a bunch of stuff herself. She checked stuff out. I think you got a current owners and encumbrances report from the title company. You drafted your own deed, didn't you? And recorded it at the courthouse.
I was like, I can do this. This isn't.
That's right. She did all that stuff. She did a great job and made $24,000.
That was before we were married or dating. Right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. But anyway, so I got this house under contract. This was several years ago. I got a house under contract. Actually, this guy was in foreclosure, and I'd sent him some postcards, and he said, meet me at 6 o'clock. So I drove up there at 6 o'clock, and I'm sitting there, and there's another car, and I know he's meeting with another investor because he'd already told me he had another appointment. So this guy comes out, gets in his car and leaves, and I go up, knock on the door, take the tour of the house, listen to the guy telling me how much he owed, and I saw the condition of the house and everything. So what did I do? I got it under contract because I'm a believer, in ready, fire, aim. And that's what we tell our students in our coaching group. I got it under contract and said, okay, I'll sort it out. It sounds really good. Well, subsequently, we bought the house and we started doing a little bit of fix up on it. And we're a couple of days into fix up. And always, when you're fixing your house up, put your We Buy Houses sign in the front yard. That way, nobody will mess with that sign, and perhaps you can buy something else in the neighborhood. So this investor calls me and he says, I had a verbal agreement with that seller. I met with him before you did. And I said, well, why didn't you get it under contract? And he said, well, I didn't have any contracts with me. And I said, well, I bet you start carrying them in your car now.
Lesson learned.
That's right. And that was the only difference. He didn't come prepared to buy that house. He wanted to go meet with the seller, talk about it, go look at some stuff, and then
work the numbers and
make an offer. No, you do that stuff during your due diligence process. Okay. That's when you do it. So. Oh God!
So this is Cindy.
Cindy, hey Cindy, good to see you down there making money in Mississippi. Happy 4th of July, John Bates. Good to see you.
And that's Brian Bagnall.
Yeah, that's right. She's my sugar mama. That's right. Right. I met her and she was talking about that deal. And I said, man, I got to marry her.
I know. Remember when you first moved up by me? I'm like, you're going to need to get a job.
That's right. That's right. When I moved to Colorado, every time we would go to a restaurant, they had a now hiring sign, and she'd say, you need to talk to them. You need a job, because, I didn't have a job.
I can't be supporting you all this time.
That's right. You just came up here to spend my $24,000. That's what she used to tell me. So that's right.
Oh, man.
Okay. So trusting your seller, you can't, listen, when you sit down at the table to write up the contract, write it up just like they tell you. If it sounds like a deal, get it under contract. Sort it out. If everything checks out, you're good to go. Don't wait to get a deal under contract. You don't have a deal until you've got it under contract. Okay, it's just a lead at that. Until that happens.
It might be a good lead, but it's not anything more than that.
And I'm telling you, if it's a really good deal and the seller calls me after they talk to you and you don't get it under contract, because when sellers call the We Buy Houses guys, they're wanting resolution. Okay. Most people sell it themselves, call a realtor, do whatever. When they're desperate enough to call the We Buy Houses guys.
Well, I think they feel more confident in you if you're just ready to go than if they're like the guy who's got to think it over and whatever. I think they are probably drawn more to the more decisive investor anyway, unless they're pushy. But you know what I mean? I don't mean being pushy, but just ready and confident.
Right. and never ever go to a seller meeting without an initial sign up package. And if you're doing Sub2, that's going to be 4 or 5 documents. You guys know what those are. You're going to have a contract, a Sub2 addendum. If you're using a regular contract, you're going to have an authorization to release, a couple of seller's disclosures, that type of stuff. So make sure you've got those with you.
Yeah.
So you're ready to go. All right.
I have mine all in one document, so that when I just print it out, and it comes like all 4 of those documents are really one document. I just print them.
Yep. And we have actually a case in the back of our car that's got documents for every situation. If we're writing up something we know we're going to wholesale, if it's, assignable, even lease option forms, we've got all of that stuff in there. You never know when you're.
Yeah, we just have like a file box that has just all the contracts and disclosures and all that stuff in there.
Okay.
And we take all that with when we go door knocking.
It's all in the car all the time.
What else do we have in our car? Lock boxes, everything. Just something. If somebody's really ready to go, we're ready to go.
Right. If somebody stops us, they saw our card, they know who we are, and the house is vacant, they've got it. We'll write it up and put a lockbox on it. I mean, we're ready for whatever comes along. And I don't do it anymore. I guess I could. I just haven't done it here in Arkansas. But I used to carry fill in the blank deeds with me, where somebody could actually give me a deed. All I had to do was write in the legal description or cut it out of another one and paste it in there and make a copy of it. I was ready for anything. Now we generally take a little bit more time.
Well, we got to notarize them anyway. So
yeah. But you can always run to the notary with them if you need to. But we can close something in just a day or two if we need to. Okay, so number 4, not completely understanding Sub2 and the Sub2 process. Gosh, that is a big problem. It's okay to jump into something when you don't know every little detail, but you need to be able to answer some basic questions for sellers. Because sellers, some will ask you some questions. The most desperate seller who's a couple of days away from losing their house, they're probably not going to care too much about how do I know that you'll make the payments. But you'll deal with people from time to time that aren't in financial trouble. And we've got a couple of examples of that from this year. People that were in good shape, they were making their payments. They had another reason they wanted to sell the house. But
Marty, he just wanted to go traveling.
Right. When they ask you questions like, will I be able to buy another house? Or, hey, listen, this is a VA loan. Will I be able to get a second one? I want to use my VA benefits again. And time again, you see people that don't understand and they don't know. Did you know that someone in the VA can get 2 loans? I see people answer that question incorrectly every day on social media. Yeah. And you need to be able to answer those questions. So learn as much as you need to know to get face-to-face with a seller and get something under contract, but also always be learning the process, what can be done, what can't be done, so you can answer those questions knowledgeably. It makes a difference when you're meeting with a seller and you're confident in what you're talking about. And don't be afraid to say, I don't know. If a seller asks me a question I can't answer, which doesn't happen too often now, but in the beginning it might. And I would say, well, Mr. Seller, I'll tell you, I can't answer that question for you. I've never run into that, but I can have an answer for you in about an hour, and make sure you're around people that can answer those questions. I don't think anybody thinks anything bad about somebody who's honest about not knowing something. Do you?
Nope.
I would respect them for not trying to just BS their way through it. Because I think that comes across when you're trying to do that. So understand the process. Always educate yourself. Jodi and I were just in an event 2 weekends ago. We don't know everything. We know a lot of stuff. We don't know everything. We're always learning. Okay. Do we have any other questions? Take all that stuff. Yes, we do. I know some of us have a fear of door knocking. What's your mindset when the seller answers the door? I'm there to help them first. Okay. And I believe that.
This is Cindy Crane, by the way.
And I mean that, Cindy. I'm there to help them first. You're in the Max group. You know what we talk about. The first thing we're there to do is find out if they want to keep their house and if there's a way that we can help them do that.
I'll tell you, I go with William when we go door knocking most of the time, but I don't go to the door. I feel like that seems a little, gang up on you kind of, or whatever,
Right.
or a little bit more solicity. I don't know. Anyway, but I can see most of the time when they come to the door, it's never as scary. I'm always actually looking at it and I'm surprised. I'm like, oh, they're just like calm and normal. Almost nobody gets upset occasionally, but it's not. It's sometimes more towards the bank than it is to you, because you're telling them that you want to help them, so they're really not mad at you. So I don't know. I think it's a lot less scary than it looks, and I've done it before. I don't now because he's just better.
Well, I don't know about that, but I do know this. Buying houses from people in trouble, seeing a lot of the stuff that gets sent to them, the postcards, the letters, the things. I get to see that stuff because if we buy the house, they still come in the mail. They're all focused on buying the house. I want to buy your house. I want to steal your house. Every marketing piece we send out first says, how can we help? If we can't, we're glad to be a resource. We say that to sellers all the time that decide not to even sell to us. Why would the seller just give me their house? I'm not sure who that is.
It's Cindy.
It's Cindy. Gosh, Cindy, I'll tell you, if you've ever had problems in your life, a house is a big deal, right? It's the biggest investment. I mean, you get told all that crap, right, that they teach you in school. A house is the biggest investment you'll ever make, this and that. And I'll tell you, Robert Kiyosaki said, and this is one of the important things that I learned in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, is that a house isn't your biggest investment. It's not the biggest, benefit to you. When you're broke, when you have trouble, assets feed you, liabilities eat you. And if you're living in a house and you've got a $1,500 a month house payment and you've just lost your job or you're getting a divorce, your wife's run off with the milkman, whatever the case may be,
it's not an asset.
And you can't make that payment, it's not an asset, it's a liability. And you run into people every day that have problems. The example we're going to give you today, this guy just he couldn't afford it. I mean, he could make the payment, but I have the feeling that Harvey wanted to spend his money on other stuff. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what? Jodi bought me a spy pen for Christmas. I haven't used it yet, but I do need to do that. I'm telling you, people are amazingly friendly. And
I think that's right. I think if you had that pen in your pocket, and you could, I mean, we might do that, and then we might just blur their faces out, but so you can hear how it goes. It's crazy, but it's really not nearly as scary as it sounds.
Right.
I missed a question here. Let's see.
If I had to guess on the numbers, I would say that of every 10 doors that I knock on, 7 don't answer. 2 have it taken care of, and 1 wants to have a 10 or 15 minute conversation with you about that blankety blank bank.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's really about how it goes. No one has ever been angry with me or even cussed me out. I have been asked not to come back. But that was about the extent of it. I've knocked on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of doors.
I remember the Psycho Myco guy.
Right.
I wonder what would have happened if he'd answered the door. He didn't answer the door. You dropped it at his door, and apparently his son brought it in and read it and called his dad. And his dad called up mad.
Right.
But
he would have never done that to my face.
No, he would have never. And I think part of it was he was embarrassed that his child found out.
Right.
That's my guess. I don't know, but
right.
The child, because he said, my son is very upset. He's having an asthma attack, and he's going to sue us and all this stuff,
Right. Right.
So I think he was embarrassed.
But he would have never done that to my face, and he should have answered the door instead of, I feel confident he was there. He called awful quickly. You know what I mean? Yeah. He did. He was probably there. Yeah. Yes, I am. I am so sweet. And
he really is. And that really does help. I mean, like he doesn't come off like a, aggressive, whatever. So I'm sure that's part of it.
I'm very non-threatening. You guys been around me. I wear cargo shorts and a button-up shirt. And I just expect them to have a conversation with me. Listen, I'm here today because, I understand the bank's trying to take your house, and I wanted to see if I can help, if there's anything I can do. And the next question a lot of times will be, well, how can you help me? Well, that depends on what you want to do. Do you want to keep your house? Do you want to stay? And if they say yes, then okay, well, let me tell you about some programs that are out there right now that can help you do that. Have you spoken to your bank yet? And we'll just go right into that. And we don't even bring up buying the house until that's apparent that, they don't want to keep it or they're not able to keep it. We don't even talk about it.
But what's the first thing you say when they answer the door?
When they answer the door, I ask for whoever the owner. If I'm going to the door and I know that the owners are Bob or Betty Smith, if a female answers, I'm going to say, "Hey, Betty," like a question. And if she says yes, I'm going to say, "Hey, Betty, my name's William, and I'm here today because I understand the bank's trying to take your house, and I'm seeing if there's anything that I can do to help." And
that's how you open it every time.
Every time.
So that puts it. I'm your ally, right from the beginning. So they can't really get too,
right,
defensive or anything. You say, "How can I help?"
Yeah. Why would they jump on me? I'm there to try to help them.
And you already said the bank's trying to take your house. So you already placed them kind of as the bad guy, and that you're the good guy trying to help. So that just sets the tone right away.
Exactly. So they don't have any reason to be angry at me. I'm there to see what I can do. That's right. Fine as frog hair. So, and most people, some people are a little uncomfortable. Some people will open the door just a crack. No, I've got it taken care of. Bam, and shut the door. But
there's sometimes a little, not quite rude, but kind of rude.
Yeah. There was a lady last week, an older lady that wouldn't open the door. She yelled at me through the door. "Who are you?"
Yeah.
And I said, "This is William." And she said, "What do you want?" And I didn't speak right away. So like 2 seconds later, she was beating on the door. Bam, bam, bam. "What do you want?"
The inside of her own door.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And I said, "Ma'am," I said, "I just dropped by." I said, "Listen, I'm just going to leave you something on the door. Take a look at it."
Something told you that wasn't going to be a fun conversation.
Well, she was afraid, obviously, of something, and I didn't want to scare her, so I want to take the pressure off of her. So
yeah,
I just left her the door drop, and so now they'll start getting postcards. She was older, and she was, she yelled back at John. "John, somebody's at the door. Come answer the door.
They're coming to get us."
John didn't want to answer the door either, I guess. Anyway,
he left her to do all the fighting.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have one more?
Yeah, we do. Not making sure your paperwork is state compliant. Okay. It's a lot different than when I got started. There are a lot of rules to protect people. Okay. So we want to protect everybody.
My first deal.
Okay. So, and like for example, now I've always tried to operate. Now I'll tell everybody this isn't anything, political or anything else. It's just the way it is. You try to operate in mostly red states, mostly conservative. Landlord laws are friendlier there. And it's just easier to get things done. You guys know what I'm talking about. We don't buy houses in California, Oregon, Washington, Baltimore, New York, any of those states. We just don't do it. But when I moved to Colorado, and then all of a sudden, you have to use a certain size font.
That's right. That's what I had to do with that first Sub2 because they were in foreclosure.
And you have to give them rescission days.
Yep. And I asked Mike about it, and he says, make sure you get the foreclosure addendum on there. And I'm like, I didn't know about that. So I had to find that, do some research, and found out I had to have I can't remember if it's 1 or 2 pages of foreclosure addendum. It has to be written it really does. The font has to be, I don't know, 16-point font and
Right.
whatever, so that they don't miss it. That lets them change their mind within 3 days and different things like that. So, and if you don't use it, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Because it's to protect the homeowners.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's not just a case of your contract not being valid. You can be in trouble.
Right.
Yeah. So for that reason, it doesn't matter where you get your contracts. It doesn't matter if you buy my course and pull your contracts out of there. It doesn't matter if you pay $50,000 for a mentorship that's got the best contracts on the planet. Have them reviewed by an attorney in your state that is investor friendly and understands what we're trying to accomplish. And you say, Mr. Lawyer, I'm going to be dealing primarily with people in financial trouble, people in foreclosure, people with tax issues. What do I need to have in my contracts? What do I need to have in here to protect me from having a problem? And you need to spend that $300-400 having that stuff reviewed, regardless, because you want to make sure that you don't get into any trouble. Right. Okay. Because no contract is going to work for every state. All right. It just doesn't. So you need to make sure that you get that done. And that's very important. I know this because, I mean, things as simple as the notary acknowledgement. In some states, you just need a notary signature. In some states, you need a witness. My first Sub2, I used a contract written by an attorney in Colorado where they have notary acknowledgments. In Georgia, you need a witness. So my deed was all wrong. Okay. But we got it fixed. But you don't want to have to go back later and do that, because sometimes attorneys or even sellers won't be, especially if they find out you're going to make some money. So make sure you do it right the first time. So that's super important there. All right. So those are the top 5. If you guys got any questions on those, we'd love to have them. There are others, of course, things you can screw up. But those are the top 5 that we see. Don't forget to get over and get our ebook on success tips for investors. It might help you not make a few of those mistakes. So you can go to sub2deals.com/success-tips.
I think we only have 1 shared so far, just so you know.
Only 1 share. Okay. So we'll go ahead and tell you guys again.
He came in later and didn't share it. I mean, he still can share even though it's almost done.
We're going to do this up until the end. So if you share our feed on your social media, share our YouTube channel.
Yeah, you got to share the YouTube channel.
You can share the YouTube channel, whatever, and then come back and type #shared. We're going to enter you into a drawing for Sub2 mug and notebook and pen and just some cool swag there. I guess we have one, then the winner will be easy to pick.
I know.
So in the new format here, one of the things that we're going to do every week is share a deal, and hopefully it'll be some of you guys' deals. If you have a deal you'd like to have evaluated, just send it to us, and you can send that to us at office@sub2deals.com. And if we choose you and put you on here, we're going to bring you on, talk about the deal, and there's going to be a prize for that too. We'll tell you more about that when we start doing it. But without a deal to evaluate today, we're going to talk about one of our recent ones. So, Jodi, you want
just checking? Do we have enough time?
Yeah, we got plenty of time.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
We're going to talk about it.
We've been answering questions as we go, so we got plenty of time to talk about this.
I just wasn't sure if we had enough. I mean, I wasn't sure how much you were sharing about it. So.
Oh, well, just go over. I mean, just the breakdown on it, how we got the deal, show a couple of pictures of it, what the guy's story was, what his motivation was. Answer, I think it was Cindy's question: why will people give you a house? Okay, now here's an example of that. So I think
you want me to share it now?
Yeah, go ahead. If you guys have any questions, ask those. We're going to get those answered. We've got about
you start telling about the
12 minutes left. Most of you guys know that that we started running radio when we got to Arkansas. And I'm not going to go into a pitch for radio today. I've done that enough. I think I wore that out. But one Friday afternoon, we got a call from a fella. His name was Harvey. And he said, "Hey, I heard your ad on the radio and I want to sell my house." And so I said, "Okay, tell me about it." And so he told me all about his house. The house had been his mom's, and she had lived there for 25 years, and she died, and he bought it. And he had just bought it a few months prior, and he's having a little trouble making the payments. And I said, "Well, how many payments are you behind, Harvey?" And he said, "Well, I'm not behind right now, but I need to sell it and find somewhere else to live." And I said, "Well, how much are your payments?" And I think they were $640 a month. And I thought, where in the heck is this guy going to find somewhere to live for less than $640 a month? If he's having trouble making those payments, I don't know what he's going to do. But anyway, there were some other things that came to light in this. He had a roommate in the house, and the roommate, we didn't know if we were going to be able to get him out. He didn't know Harvey was selling the house. Oh, it was just one thing after another. And then we had to get a dumpster to get it cleaned out and do some other stuff. But it was an okay house. We figured the house was probably worth, what did we figure the comps were on this house in good shape, Jodi? 275?
I can't. 250 for sure.
Yeah, it needed a roof. Probably it was still in okay shape. It didn't leak, and then the inside was just really dated. I think the carpet in the bedrooms and the hallway were like original carpet. It was probably 25, 30 years old. It was anyway. The house was really. It just really needed some updating. Is what it needed. It had a couple of outside storage buildings. One of them was one of those, I don't know, $8,000.
That's the fancy kitchen.
Yeah, it still had the old, I don't know, 90s that countertop.
I think that's more than that.
You think so?
Yeah.
That's 20.
Like that marbly wood. Yeah. Weird stuff.
But it had a new stove. It had a new dishwasher. The house wasn't in bad shape. It was just a little dated. So anyway, I'm talking to Harvey, and I said, I'm listening to his story, and I said, "Well, listen, how soon do you want to sell it?" "Well, as soon as I can." And I said, "Well, how much are you wanting to get out of it?" And I think he told me he owed about $97,000. So I figured this guy's going to want 50. And I said, "Well, how much do you want to get for the house?" And he said, $5,000. And
wow.
And it took me a second did he say 5? And then I heard a woman say 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was his ex-wife that he still lived with. Like I said, a lot of complicated stuff going on here. So
she was the negotiator.
Yeah, she wanted to negotiate. So I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, we might be able to do that." And I was about to ask him when he wanted to meet, and he said, "Can you come down here right now?" And I said, "Yeah, I think we can." This was a Friday afternoon, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we're like, "Well, we can be there in a half hour." Okay.
Yeah.
He
said, "I think you're only 19 minutes away." Because it was just really funny. And yeah. So anyway, we of course drove down there. We have all our contracts with us all the time. So we jumped in the car, took off, and walked through the house. When we got there, he said, "They cut the lights off today." And
we had to use our little flashlight phones.
Yeah.
Look around.
So they had cut the lights off. So we didn't have any lights, but we walked through the house, and then we went next door to Taco Bell. I think Jodi's even got a picture of us writing the contract.
I do. Yeah. If you look out the back window of the house, it's the back side of the Taco Bell.
Yeah, really. It's a chain link fence. And then just on it's the brand new Taco Bell right there. There's even a gate in the fence.
You can see the menu from the yard.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So we wrote that up, I think we decided we put in the contract, we take over his payments of $640, $97,000 loan balance, and give him $7,000. So that's what we wrote up. Anyway, I think title came back okay, and we actually self-closed this one. We met him at the bank the next day and got a power of attorney and went ahead and got a deed. And he said, "Can you make next month's payment?" And I said, "If you're not out of here, I won't." And he said, "Well, I don't know if I can quite be out yet. I think the next month's payment was only 2 weeks away." And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what, if you want me to make next month's payment, you're going to have to give me a deed right now." So he said, "Okay." So we met at the bank. We got the deed, the power of attorney, closed pretty much everything else. And but I'm not going to give you the rest of the money until you're out. And he was like, "Okay." So anyway, we got everything done, and we listed it on the MLS. And we finally sold it to an investor. We met with Harvey after all the fees that came out and everything, because we had to buy a dumpster for him. And I said, "Well, I'll get you the dumpster, but you got to pay me back." And anyway, I think we wrote Harvey a check for $5,100. Mm-hmm. And we took over his payments, and I think he owed $98,000. So we bought the house for $103,000 or $104,000, and we listed it on the MLS. And after the realtors were paid, and we took a discount for selling it to an investor and everything.
Sold it 2 or 3 times actually. The one was an FHA buyer, and we didn't have it seasoned long enough, so we couldn't sell it to them.
Right.
And then we had another. Maybe it wasn't under contract the second time, but there was an offer that was pretty good. And then I don't know what happened with that one. I can't remember. Mm-hmm. And then this last one was the one that was the investor, which we're like, just take it.
Right. And so after everything was said and done on it, after we paid the agents and everything else, I think our final, what we cleared was $69,000, because I think our closing, we got 64, and he'd given us a $5,000 non-refundable. Right. So we made $69,000. I think we ultimately made two payments on the house is I think what we did. So,
and he paid for the dumpster. So I don't think we even had much out of pocket on this.
A couple of tiny light bills.
And the lawn care and just the little tiny maintenance stuff, but nothing major.
Very little, because it was right in the beginning of summer, and we got the lawn cut a time or two. So that was it, though. So
payments and maybe another $500.
Yeah. So we owned the house for, I don't know, 60 or 90 days and made $69,000. And the guy just gave us the house. And, we could have put a little money in the house and sold it and made a whole lot more, but we just flipped this one.
And after he moved out, some of his neighbors moved in for a few days.
Yeah. Until we went over and cleared them out. So,
yep. Yeah. And then after we sold it, we got word from the realtor that the new buyer, after they bought it, they had moved back in on him again too. Yeah. They had some very forward neighbors. They were friends of Harvey's.
Right.
So they just figured, well, so Harvey's not using it. We can just sleep here.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's their house was too crowded.
No. All right. So that's a deal example, just something we've done in the last couple of months. We want to share some stuff you guys are doing, and do some deal evaluation stuff with you. So if you're looking for something, you got it under contract, you're not sure, just submit that. And you can send that to office@Sub2 Deals, SUB 2 deals.com. And if we pick yours, we'll have you on here. We'll talk about your deal, and just take a look.
So we have 2 shares now. So do you put it in the wheel?
Yeah, the wheel's here. Yeah, we got the wheel. So yeah, we're gonna spin the wheel. We got 2 shares.
We have Ruben, and it's gonna be funny, just 2.
Hey, listen, somebody got to win, right?
That's right. Ruben, and I forgot who the other one. It was a Facebook user.
All right, let's see. We're gonna share this. There it is. Okay. Well, I thought it would let us. I don't know why it's not.
We didn't practice this.
We didn't practice it before we did it.
We did the run through.
Yeah. So
I'm trying to see.
Let me see if I can find it here. And
Well, maybe it was just one. I'm not sure. Ruben shared in YouTube. Maybe
okay,
Ruben,
it's got two. It's got two.
hang on, I think Ruben might have been the one that shared in Facebook too. He might have shared from. He might have marked it.
Let's just see. We're all set up now, so I think we can do it.
Well, if it is, I guess Ruben will win.
Well,
so try it. Let's spin it.
All right, I'm trying it. Let's go. All right, so let's see what happens. It's Ruben. Ruben's a winner.
Is it Ruben or Ruben?
Ruben or Ruben?
Facebook Ruben or the YouTube Ruben?
All right, the YouTube Ruben. Hey, Ruben.
That's pretty funny.
Send us your mailing information, and we'll get that out to you. So we appreciate you sharing. Guys, next week. Yeah. Yep, you get a cup, and you got a picture of what he gets, right?
Yeah, I did. I closed it.
Well, you can open it up again.
Okay, let me find it.
Okay. Well, you're too late, Colby. Too late this time, but you can always come back next week.
Next week, sure.
Yeah. So make sure, Ruben, that you send me your contact information. You can either, if we're friends on Facebook, send it to me in Messenger. If we're not, send it to office@sub2deals.com. And we'll get that out for you, man. We appreciate the heck out of you sharing. And you guys that missed it.
It's this little.
Yeah. A cup, a notebook, and a pen. Just a little bit of swag there.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll send that to us, Ruben. We'll get that out to you. We appreciate you. And hey, listen, guys, next week, when you join on YouTube. It's a lot easier. And I don't think you can share out of the coaching group. So join us on YouTube.
I'm going to discuss this with William, but I think we might not share to Facebook. We might share the YouTube link.
Yeah, share the YouTube link
into the Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
So that it's really the only way you can access is YouTube.
Right. Okay.
It's easier.
It sounds good. Okay, guys. All right. We appreciate you being here today. You guys have a fantastic 4th of July. And remember, while you're out there watching the fireworks, think about your financial freedom, where you want to be at the end of the year. We're halfway through this year now. Gosh, wasn't it just January 1st? So
like a couple of weeks ago, yeah.
You got a few more months, and I'm telling you this just based on Jodi and I came into a brand new market at the end of last year, and I'm not trying to brag or anything, but we have kicked some serious butt here. And we started all over. We didn't have any contacts here. We didn't have any attorneys or title companies. We didn't have any banks here. We didn't have anybody. Anything.
We jumped right in. Like we were here for 2 days, and we found a RIA meeting to go to right away to start connecting. So, I mean, we jumped in like hard.
Mm-hmm.
So, but can't steal in slow motion.
You can do it. You can get started today. I'm telling you, I would go so far as to say it doesn't matter what kind of job you have or anything else. You can work yourself right out of a job in the next 6 months. But you got to take some action. You got to do some stuff. So appreciate you guys joining us. And until next week, get out there, talk to some sellers.
Buy some houses.
Bye-bye.